The next part that we're going to make for stage 16 is a bit of a non-standard part, and it's probably the most complex one we're going to make in the entire course. It's the tail fairing that fits on the end of the helicopter's tail. So let's start a new part and get started with this. Start a sketch on the top plane, and we'll start off drawing the section that has the 2 blocks, because we know they're a pretty standard size. Let's get the slot tool, use a center point slot, and draw a slot at the origin like this. It should be 7.4 high, and then 15.4 across the entire length. Remember, if you hold down shift, you can dimension to the outsides of the slots. Then I'm just going to do a blind extrude 7mm. This doesn't have to be mid-plane, and I'm going to go downwards like this. And let's call that feature 2 block body. Next, I'm going to make an entirely new body for the area where the axle will fit in. Start a sketch on this plane that goes down the middle, the right plane. Then go normal to, and let's draw something like this. Start off with the circle tool. Draw a circle that's lined up with the middle of the part like this. And then we'll get the line tool, and we'll draw 3 lines coming off it on the bottom like this. The center of this circle should be vertically aligned with the origin. It should be touching the top edge of this part. So let's select the circle and that top edge and make those tangent. The diameter should be 7.4 in size, so it's the same as that first body that we made. And then to this bottom line, from the very top of the part, should be 10.2mm. We can then extrude this, but we need to offset where the extrude is. So let's go to extruded boss base. Firstly, in the selected contours, we need to choose both of those areas. So it's the rectangular area at the bottom, and it's also the circle at the top. We also need to offset the start point. So here on the left, let's go to from, let's choose offset. And for the offset distance, we'll make this 24mm. We'll then do a blind extrude, and this is 7.85mm. The direction of it should be going back towards that existing body. To check the size, once we've made that new body, we can get the measure tool, and the entire length here should be 31.7. And I'm going to call that feature axle body. Next, we're going to draw a sketch on this end face to cut the axle out, but we're not actually going to cut the axle yet. We're just going to use that sketch to line up some other features first. So let's start a sketch on this end face, and let's draw that usual axle profile that we always draw. So we've got a 4.8mm circle in the middle, then we've got our 2 center rectangles. We'll make those the same width, which is 1.8, and then we'll link those to the size of the 4.8 circle by using those 2 tangent relations. We also need to cut out some more material for the cavity. So to do this, we're going to select that small circle, the 4.8, and let's offset that outwards 1.3. So that should be touching the outer curve of that new body that we made. Then let's get the circle tool again. We'll draw another circle down here directly below the first one. We'll make it the same size as that large one, so you can select both of them and make them equal. It should be lined up with the origin vertically, and then the distance between the 2 circles should be 8mm. That should fully define that circle. We'll also offset these outer edges inwards 1mm each. So we'll do the right hand side and also 1mm on the left. Then let's also get the line tool, and let's just extend these lines downwards. This just gives us the full profile of the area we need to cut out for the axle and the cavity. We are going to cut out this cavity, but before we do that, we're going to make the fairing. So let's exit this sketch, then start a sketch on the same end face. Firstly, I'm going to select this outer top circle and press convert. So we've now got that in our new sketch. Then get the center line tool and just draw a center line down from the very top of that circle down to the center point and then directly out to the left. We can then use the trim tool, make sure you're on power trim, and we can trim away the rest of that circle. So we just want that top left quadrant. Now the reason we drew that other axle cut sketch first is because we're going to use the lines within it to lay out this other sketch that we're in now. So make sure you can see that axle sketch. You should be able to see it by default, but if you can't, you can click on the sketch and press show. Then hover over the sketch and let's choose this left hand vertical line. Then press convert, and that line is now added to our current sketch. You can then select the line, and on the left here, press for construction. We'll also select that lower circle and convert that, and then also make that for construction. So click on it and then choose for construction on the left. Now we know that the fairing kind of curves inward, and we also know that the thinnest part of the wall is 0.6 at the very bottom. So I'm going to select that vertical construction line. I'm going to offset 0.6. I'm going to make the offset line into a construction line as well, and then press OK. I'm also going to get another center line, and I'm going to draw a line out from this intersection of the inner line and the circle directly to the left. So we should have something like this. We're going to use this point on the left as a guide for the curve of the fairing, and this will all become a little bit more clear in a moment. So let's get the arc tool, let's choose a 3-point arc, and let's start an arc from the bottom of this existing arc at the top, and go down to about here, and then pull out and set the arc something like this. Then select that top arc and the new arc that we just drew, and make those tangent. So those two arcs now join each other with the same curve. Next, we'll select this end of the small line. We'll also select that new arc that we drew, and we'll make these coincident. That means that the arc now goes through that point that we selected. And then the total height of this part we know from measuring is 15.4. So I'm going to get the smart dimension. I'm going to add a dimension from the very top of the part to the end of that long arc on the bottom. So you should have something like this. Both of those arcs should now be fully defined. This gives us the outer curve of the fairing that we're going to extrude. To set the wall thickness of it, let's select both of those arcs, and then let's offset 1.5 inwards. Make sure that the offset line is solid and also the base line is solid. So you should have something like this, and then just get the line tool and let's just close the profile. So let's draw a line across here and a line across here. Let's also draw another line along here where the two arcs join, because we're actually going to extrude two sections of this profile separately. So you should have a fully closed profile like this with a line across the middle as well, which breaks it into two profiles. Now from within the sketch, let's go to Features, Extruded Boss Base, and let's just extrude that top part of the profile. So let's choose that top part in the selected contours. We'll flip the direction, so we're going back towards that original body. And from the end conditions, let's choose up to body, and then let's choose that first body that we made. So your preview should look like this. And you can call that feature fairing top. We're now going to extrude that bottom section of the profile, but we're going to extrude this one a little bit further. So expand that fairing top feature, and underneath that you should see your sketch. We can reuse this sketch again in the next feature. So select that sketch, and then choose Extruded Boss Base. Then in the selected contours, let's choose that bottom part of the profile. So you might need to click in the two areas separately. Then let's flip the direction, and we'll just do a blind extrude 38.2 millimeters and press OK. So it should look like this, and I'm going to call that feature fairing bottom. Next, we can cut away these little areas that are sticking out. So let's start a sketch on the front plane. Let's go normal 2. Select this lower arc curve and press convert. Then just drag that top end of the line up so it joins exactly with the outside of the part. It should be just where this top curve starts, around there. Then get the line tool and just close that profile with two straight lines, one horizontal and then one going vertically up to that top point. We can then use that profile to cut away. So let's go extruded cut. Let's go through all both. And let's call that fairing side cut. Next, we can fill in this top part here. So let's spin around. Let's start a sketch on this end face. Go normal 2, get the rectangle tool and a corner rectangle. And let's start from this bottom corner and go up to this top edge like this. And then you can drag this bottom left corner to the corresponding corner on the existing part. And that should fully define your rectangle like this. Then let's just go Extruded Boss Base. Let's flip the direction so it's back towards the rest of the part. And we can choose up to next. So it should look like this. Press OK. And let's call that fairing corner. Next, we can actually cut away the axle area. So let's go and get that original sketch that we drew, sketch 3 for me. And let's do an extruded cut. For the selected contours, let's zoom in and choose those 5 areas of the axle cut. We'll also choose the rectangle part at the bottom and the 2 small wedges. And then we'll also choose that cavity area, which is sort of like a wedge on its side. Then for the end condition, let's choose up to surface, and we'll choose this surface here. Now the reason we didn't make this cut before we made the fairing is because the fairing would have actually filled in some of that cut. So let's call that something like axle cut. Next, we can round off the edges inside the axle cut. So let's get the fillet tool, a 0.5mm fillet, and let's round off these 4 inside edges. Next, we can cut the holes on that original block. So let's start a sketch on this top face. Let's add 2 circles, each one concentric with the outer curve of the slot. They should be the same size and they should be 4.8mm. Again, we didn't cut these first because when we added the fairing, it would have filled in some of those holes. And just as a double check, the distance between them should be that standard 8mm. Then we can go extruded cut, and we can just choose up to surface, and we can choose this bottom surface here. So it's just cutting through that original block. And let's call that one block holes. Next, there's a wider rim on the top of these holes. So let's start another sketch on the same face. Let's select those two edges and offset them. And if you find that you can't offset them, you can convert them first, and then select the converted lines and offset those. The offset distance is 0.7 outwards. We can then use those larger circles to cut that rim. So let's go extruded cut, let's just go blind, 0.5mm. And we can call those rim cuts. So we've built up a lot of the shape now. There's a bit more to do though. We've got one more detail on the back side here. This is a small stopper underneath those holes. Let's start a sketch on the front plane, get a center rectangle, and draw a center rectangle about here. The size of this is 13mm long. It's 0.5 high. It's 0.5 below the bottom of that first block that we made. And then the center of it should be lined up with the origin like this. So it should be that kind of position and should be fully defined. We can then go to features, extruded boss base. And we actually want to extrude it from that curved surface. So here on the left, let's go to from. On the drop down, let's choose surface, face, or plane. And then we can choose that surface there. Then let's just do a blind extrude upwards 0.5mm. And you can call that stopper. We're nearly there now, just a few more details. So let's get the fillet tool. Let's add a 1mm fillet on this end here. Now we can cut that fairing curve to the exact shape from the side. So let's start a sketch on the front plane. Go to a normal 2 view like this. We want to be looking from this side from the back, so you might have to press normal 2 twice to flip your view around. Then get the line tool and draw something like this. Start from this top right corner, go out to the left horizontally, and then go down and join the outside edge, and then go vertically up to that corner again. The top left corner of this triangle is 3.8 from that original body, and the height of the triangle is also 3.8. Then get the line tool again and draw a vertical line going down from the bottom of that triangle that we drew all the way down to the bottom corner of the part. Then horizontally over to the left, not quite to the far edge, but just to the edge of this fillet like this. We can then zoom out a bit. We can go over to the right, put a point here, and then go back up to the start point with another line. Then for the dimensions, this point here is 2.5 from the edge of that original body. And then the distance from the very top is 10.4, and that should fully define your sketch. We'll then cut away these two enclosed sections. So let's go to features, extruded cut. In the selected contours, let's choose this top triangle, and we'll also choose this bottom profile. We can do through or both. And that should give you that fairing shape like this. So we can call that fairing main cut. Now let's just add a few fillets. So get the fillet tool. Let's add a 5mm fillet on this bottom edge. And this is a little bit of an approximation, but it's good enough for our purposes. Then let's get a 1mm fillet. We'll add it onto this sharp edge here, and then onto these 3 edges on the right hand side here. Then the modeling is finished, so you can save your part, and let's call it something like tail fairing 30465. Then finally, I'm just going to change the color. So let's open appearance, scenes and decals. We'll choose a medium gloss plastic. We'll make it the green color, and then we'll go in, we'll edit that green to be more like that lime green of the original parts. And then this part is totally finished. Quite a long video there, but the next one is much simpler.